Broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Well, hello everyone. It is Tuesday. It's beautiful outside, but we're going to spend an hour inside to learn about some pretty neat websites and learn about not only where to find the stuff, so the materials that you can either just add to your current collection or you can fill some gaps. And conversely, after we found the stuff, how to get the stuff. So I'm going to go through a bunch of websites first that are pretty awesome in their own unique ways. And then I'm going to go to not only our Ccd tool to show you how that works, but I'm also going to show you two of our primary vendors. And if you wanted to try and select some items outside of Ccd because it is somewhat limited, then you can just go straight to our vendor sites and you can fill carts and then we can process them from there. So here we go. Bear with me. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask. There's either the chat, and I have Lena, one of our LDS librarians, and she is going to be moderating chat and questions for me. So please don't hesitate. If you have questions, let me know. And here we go. So the first one that I'm going to talk about is Booklist. Now, this is created and maintained by the American Library Association. So it's definitely within our world, so to speak. And sorry, I'm just going to move this out of my way. And it is typically a not only a hard copy periodical, but an online periodical. And it is also normally a subscription website. But because of the pandemic, as you can see actually on their homepage, just underneath the title here, it says access to Booklist online is free during this unprecedented time. So I highly recommend to take advantage of this opportunity. I believe that there's quite a bit that you could still explore on their website without setting up an account for yourself, especially while it's free. But there are benefits to having that online account. So we're going to take a little look at this site, and it's really easy to sign up. I've already done so, and in fact, I'm already logged in, so just so I can access some of the things that you couldn't if you weren't a member. So on this main page, it's a really clean site. It's really easy to use, as you can see. There's a really easy to use toolbar at the top, and that's going to be kind of our main access point for everything, including a search feature here in the top left, which you can break it down by either title, author, ISBN, or keyword. So pretty basic search feature. If there was something specific that you were looking for, so there was either a specific author or title that you wanted to read a review on, that you maybe had one of your patrons ask about and wondering whether you should add that to the collection, or maybe it's something that you read about in the paper and you wanted to find out a little bit more about, so you can go straight to that search feature and look specifically. But you can also look more generally as well. And it's a pretty endless amount of information on this site. So on this main page, if you scroll down just a little bit, there's a feature that I really like here that is reviews in this issue. And you can see it's right here, but what it does, which is really interesting, is it not only breaks it down by genre, but it also breaks it down by format, which I thought was really interesting. So there's adult nonfiction and fiction that you can explore. There's graphic novels, there's YA nonfiction and fiction, and they also have audiobooks for adults and YA. So if we just pop into one of those for a minute, it breaks it down again into different subject matter. So if you were, kind of in that area of your nonfiction collection, for example, for religion, you can click specifically on that, and it's going to provide all of the reviews from this particular monthly issue of Booklist on what they reviewed for religion titles. So that is a great feature. And from there, we're just going to kind of scroll down to the bottom, and as you can see, there's quite a number of really interesting and informative articles that are changed rather frequently, actually, which is nice. So if you check back every so often, it does change up somewhat. So from there, I'm going to go to the online reviews tab at the top. And again, it's somewhat similar to what I just showed you with the find reviews in adult fiction, nonfiction, etc. But again, on the left-hand column is where you can actually access their periodicals in its complete form. And you can also check out ones from their archives as well, so from previous months and years, which is also really handy. So if you really have some time on your hands and you want to explore, I would recommend that. From there, we're going to go on to the Book Awards tab, which is amazing. And the reason why is because every possible, as far as I've been able to research, book awards globally that are available are listed here. And it is rather endless. So it's all nominees and finalists with hyperlinks that you can go to directly, and it is extremely comprehensive. So again, if it's something that you're wanting to narrow it down to, you're really just interested in the Dartmouth medal and honor winners, then you can go straight to it. They're great lists because they not only offer a little blurb about what it is, what organization it involves. So this Over the Rainbow Committee of ALA's Rainbow Roundtable has an award. And these are the nominees that were brought forth for this particular award. And for each title, it offers a little summary, sometimes a review, and then all of the acquisitions information that you may need as well. So ISBN, a general list price. It may be different than what we could get it for, but it's all right there in hand. The other nice thing that you can do about this, any of these award lists, is the bonus to having an account to book list of your own to signing up is that you can make your own book lists. So you can add individual titles or entire lists, like this award list, for example. So let's say I'm looking at it right now. It's piqued some interest, but I just don't have time to really go through it with any real attention to it right now, but I want to look at it later. I can add this whole list to one of my lists that I've created, and it will keep it for me for later every time I log in. And it's just this little box up here in the corner, which is on pretty much every page, add to list. And I'll go into that a little bit further later. So the Book Awards tab, again, very, very comprehensive, super helpful, definitely worth a browse. It's something that I also use quite frequently when I compile lists to add to CCD for selection lists. So helpful for that. The next one I wanted to talk about on their site is book links or book list reader. And what it does is it actually transfers you to a completely different site, which is obviously compiled by the same group of people from Booklist. But what it is kind of in addition to the main site, it's a little bit more comprehensive and a little bit more specific, so more granular, and breaks down a lot of the reviews by genre. So again, if there's just like one specific genre that you're looking for titles, reviews, suggestions that you want to add to your collection, in this main toolbar underneath Booklist Reader, the heading, you can see there's mystery fiction, romance, YA, children's lit. So it just helps to break it down a little bit. And they have some really helpful sidebars on the right-hand side of the page in Booklist Reader. So not only is there a little comprehensive grouping here where it's best new books for the different weeks, so well, pretty much every week so far this month, including archives, which you can access here as well. But if you scroll down a little bit further, this is mind-blowingly amazing. It's the category section, and it, again, is breaking down lists and reviews into different subject areas, into different formats. So if you're just looking for audiobooks, for example, they have 882 audiobook reviews here that are available for you to browse. 446 YA, graphic novels. So very, very helpful if you're trying to just look for one specific subject area or demographic. That's the best place to go on this particular site. And they also have, of course, social media presence, so you could check that out if you wanted to. But I'm just going to go back to, again, the main Booklist site for a moment. And lastly, the last two things I'm going to talk about is my Booklist again. So again, if you have chosen to subscribe, especially taking fair advantage of the free aspect of the site right now, then by signing up again, you can make your own lists. So I'm just going to go to mine so far. I've only made one so far. So it's called Laura's Current Faves. And just by clicking on that, I have not only added just some individual titles to it, but again, as I was talking about before, I've added an entire list of one of those award lists. That it's something that I want to look at more thoroughly at a later date. I might put it together for a selection list on CCD. So now I don't have to come back to the site and go, oh heavens, what was the name of that list or that awards list that I wanted to look at or that title? It's all right there for me. So I think that that's a huge benefit to signing up for this particular site. And lastly, one of the greatest features of this site is in the top where it says webinars. And what these are free 1-hour sessions geared towards exploring forthcoming titles from the publishing industry and trends in libraries. They are free webinars. Can't beat that. And they have been updating these pretty frequently. So there's some really interesting and fun webinars that they have coming up. There's one that focuses on mysteries, new middle grade series on May 4th. What else? Mental and emotional wellness, books for young readers. And they've even added some more from a couple of days ago when I looked last. So there is a really nice long listing of all kinds of different webinars that you can take and for free. So it's worth exploring, and you might just find that there might be something there that might be of great use to you. So it doesn't hurt to mention too, if you're into podcasts, they do have a podcast. It's just for fun, but it is quite informative, and it's probably going to include some topics that you are interested, but maybe they're also talking about topics that are not in your personal purview, things that you're not really super passionate about, but it's good hearing from another person's perspective as to what they think is really cool out there. That's maybe some titles that are going to be coming out from publishers that we need to know about, because maybe they're things that we do want to add to our collection as well. So if you're into podcasts, they've got one. They're not letting us down on any end here. And that is pretty much it for Booklist. There is, of course, more, but that's just kind of like the biggest talking points, I would say. And are there any questions about Booklist that anybody had at this point? Is it quiet out there, Lena?
It is. You know, I've been able to answer a lot of the questions. People were asking about the cost of subscriptions and stuff like that.
Right.
That information's on the site, I'm sure.
It is. Yeah.
You know, if we get some more information, I'll let you guys know. I'll send an email out to all the people who attended this webinar.
Oh, that's wonderful. Good. Yes.
Yeah. The only question was for the awards, does it go 1 year back or multiple years back?
Well, let's just pop into Book Awards here. Now, I believe, I can't remember if there was an arc, forgive me for scrolling really fast. I know that can be dizzying. Let's go into Andrew Carnegie's for fiction. So, okay, so this is definitely, it's obviously the current. It looks like it's just the current. So if you wanted to go into their archives, you probably just have to go straight to the Andrew Carnegie Medals website itself to find any archive lists. All right, so I'm moving on. And next, we're going to get acquainted with Kirkus. Now, some probably are familiar with Kirkus. I kind of consider it to be kind of like the highfalutin, higher echelon of book sites. It's very sophisticated. It's an extremely easy to use, user-friendly, clean site, which is always refreshing. There's a tremendous amount of information on here again, tons of articles, tons of reviews, and again, it's one of those options of it is not subscription based, so there is no fee to sign up. But it's not 100% necessary to sign up if you don't want. All of this information that I'm going to show you, except for one element, is free to use without signing up. The advantage to signing up, again, is going to be similar to Booklist in that you can create your own, in this case, they call it a bookshelf. So again, you can add reviews and titles to your bookshelf so that you can explore it later. So I'm not even going to sign in because I have not actually set up an account for this because I just didn't really find it necessary. There's just so much to see even without it. So what I'm going to show you first is it's on the main page. And it's just a little further down, and this is, I think, I like the way that they have it set up. It's our take on this week's bestsellers, which is pretty self-explanatory. But what they do, I'm just going to click on one. So we're going to click on The Good Egg, which I see come through the library a lot for cataloging. And it's something that they're actually recommending. So what they do is, I was quite heartbroken, I'm not going to lie. I'm the biggest Margaret Atwood fan probably in the world. And they actually said that they do not recommend Handmaid's Tale, which made me shed a tear a little bit, but you know, to each his own. But what they're basically doing is they have certain symbols that basically determine whether or not they're giving it a thumbs up, a thumbs down. They give a really great review, when it was released, what it's all about. And then again, they also provide you with all of that acquisitions information. So if you were in ULS, for example, and you were wanting to fill a cart, you can just copy and paste basically the ISBN right into the search field there. So that's kind of a fun feature. I'm just going to pop back here.
While you're pausing there, Laura,
yes,
just a couple things to pipe in here.
Yes.
There was another quick book list question, and maybe you can answer this from your puttering around on the site. When
yes.
The website is no longer free, are the reviews completely inaccessible for Booklist?
No, they are accessible. So, but that is also keeping in mind that, full transparency, I only knew about Booklist current pandemic, not pre-pandemic. So because they're offering it for free right now, and it's the only time that I've really used the site quite thoroughly in preparation for these webinars, I've had access to everything, obviously. So I can't for certain say that is going to be the case. You'll have full access, and it'll be, you know, still unnecessary to subscribe. But I'm going to guess and say yes. It's probably similar to Kirkus in that it is pretty accessible without having that subscription.
Yeah, I guess
I just can't testify on a stack of Bibles in a court of law because I might be lying.
And one last thing just to say to the group, I've had a number of questions about YRL obtaining a subscription to Booklist. If this is something you're interested in, I would really, really encourage you to fill out the survey at the end of this webinar, so that we can collect that feedback and use it to help make some purchasing decisions about our HQ collections. So good to know that there's interest, and please put it on the survey.
Yes, good, excellent idea. Thank you, Lena. Okay, so Kirkus, I'm just scrolling slightly further down the main page, and as you can see, there's quite a number of articles that are available. Like this particular one really caught my attention, and that it's Hulu's Normal People All Messed Up, and it's basically an article about books that are being turned into films. So that is definitely in my area of favorite things to read about. So, and then from there, it just gets better and better. So there's a whole area on the left here of book news. So titles that are coming out from in either different areas, like children's books, for example, or a nonfiction, or maybe about certain authors or even certain publishers. They have a featured review, but they also have, again, some really nice book lists on the side. So, and this changes over quite frequently as well. So I've seen quite a number over the last couple of weeks change over. And like right now, they have 16 best books for May, for example, 10 most addictive books of 2020 so far. So really nice, fun lists that have great reviews and all the information that you would require to learn about a whole bunch of new titles out there. And we're just going to kind of keep going down this main page because it just goes on forever. Again, there's featured book reviews that they seem to be, that are really in Kirkus's focus. And this is a nice feature as well, the new releases. So if you're interested in what is coming out in biography and memoir, for example, you can click on this particular section and it's going to give you a whole bunch of different options that you can actually even filter down by subgenre and by rating, even by popularity. Excuse me. So again, super helpful if it just, sometimes any of these subject areas can seem a little overwhelming because there is so much coming out all of the time. So it just helps to simplify the search, and you can really just click on what you want to click on. So I'm just going to go back to, there's teen mystery detective. They have a section on kind of a monthly focus, so great reads for May. And then again, even further down is just more and more kind of broken down into subject areas for books to screen again. There's different videos, articles. Their reviews are available from their periodical that they also produce. And if all of that is, sometimes when you're exploring a site and you're kind of flitting around from like page to page within that site, and then you can't remember, I can't remember where I saw that thing about, let's say it was mystery and thriller. Well, I always recommend definitely going to the bottom of just about any of these websites, and it's all very nicely organized right there. So it's just so simplified in that, oh, here's mystery and thriller. Now I can go right back to where I was instead of having to browse through multiple pages. The other nice feature about this is you can see their toolbar doesn't move as you scroll down the pages. So that's all really, really handy as well. So I'm going to go back to that main tool right here. And as you can see, if I just hover over book reviews, for example, it's going to give you a breakdown by genre. So again, if you're just looking at mystery and detective reviews right now, you want to kind of find out what they're talking a lot about, then you can just click strictly on that one genre hyperlink. And there's quite a wide breakdown here. Like again, I'm often asked about, can you recommend more graphic novel titles? Well, they've got a really great listing of graphic novel reviews that they seem to be putting a lot of focus on. So that's definitely a handy tab. From there, I would say any of these are going to be helpful. News and features, again, popular genres. They're going to give you all kinds of different suggestions because you can also browse by content type. So again, books to screen, seen and heard. So again, those titles that everybody seems to be talking about. They do have their own specific award, which is Kirkus Prize, and they do offer archives. So as you can see, if I just hover over Kirkus Prize, last year, so it looks like the last 6 years are there to browse if you are curious about what who they've awarded their award to. They do have a magazine as well, but what I get pretty excited about on this site more than anything, which is just such a unique feature that is worth getting onto Kirkus for no other reason, is their Kirkus Diversity collections. So if you go to the More tab at the top and click on, or just hover over Kirkus Diversity collections, you can browse their collections. And what makes it even more fantastic is they've curated it and broken it down in such a way to search it that you can not only break down this diversity listing by category. So there's Black, Asian, Middle Eastern, First Native Nations, LGBTQ, disability. You can also break it down by audience, so children's and teen or adult, or you can also break it down by experience, and this is brilliant. It breaks it down by 3 keys: identification, inclusion, and learning. So identification, just to give you an idea, it says a book in which cultural identity informs characters and plot, but is not the center of the plot. So if you're really wanting to get quite granular in your search for some great titles, because maybe somebody has been inquiring about it. So somebody has come in and said, I am looking for something that focuses on you know, an indigenous culture, and we're going to say, well, you know, and I'm looking for kids books specifically, and I want, I really like how they've broken down the identification option for this, and maybe the learning option. So I think I forgot to click apply, so forgive me. I'm just going to go back for a second here. So category, yeah, I didn't apply. Make sure to click apply. And audience, I'm going to say change and apply. And I think I did apply my experience, but it didn't. Okay, so now with each of those filters, it's narrowed it down. And what it is providing me with is based on the reviews that they have in their database, are titles that match that criteria, that really super specific criteria. And I'm sure that there are other places that you can find this information out, but if this isn't a priceless tool, I don't know what is. Granted, it's giving me 5 options, but there are 5 really great options that are super specific to that subject matter. So if for no other reason that you want to go on to Kirkus, I highly recommend going to Kirkus so that you can just check out the More tab and the Kirkus diversity collections. So from there, I'm going to move on if we're okay with questions.
There was just a comment for the group.
Yes.
Wendy from Westlock says, I've been using Booklist for several years. If your library receives the magazine, you can sign into the website. I would advise you to get on their newsletter mailings so you can sign up for the webinars. No subscription was required for this feature.
Oh, excellent. Thank you, Wendy.
And that's it. No questions so far.
Okay, well, good.
Do you want to just wait and see if anybody's madly typing, or?
Okay, I can definitely, or you're welcome to chime in, Lena, at any time.
No, this is great.
It might not be bad because I might lose my voice. I haven't talked this much in a really long time. Okay, so the next site that I'm going to explore a little bit is Publishers Weekly. So pretty self-explanatory if you're not familiar with it. Again, it's another subscription site that, as you can see, actually in the top, it provides really handy dandy information, which is it's basically $19.95 a month to subscribe. It's something that's put together by the publishing industry, which, you know, you're getting it straight from the source. But similar to Booklist, because of the pandemic, they are offering all of their site for free. So for how long that's going to go, like anything else regarding this pandemic, we're not sure, but definitely worth checking out for sure. It is definitely a kind of a busy site as a constructive critique, I would say. But the really nice little feature again is when you see all of the heaps of information that are on any page on this site, if that's a little overwhelming to you, which it can be to me, especially again, if you've forgotten where you were looking at something and you can't remember how to get back to it, go to the bottom of the page because it is, again, organized beautifully. In fact, there's things on here that I couldn't find on any other page that somehow were revealed at the bottom. So in the news section, for example, you know, there's news about all of these different areas like marketing, for example, which is, you know, something that doesn't interest me very much, but I might have a collection that needs a little beef up in the marketing area. So, you know, I can just go straight to the bottom of this page and go straight to that little hyperlink at the bottom. So just a nice little place to look if you're not willing to go through everything else, because there is a lot, but there's a lot of good. So it's basically, again, a weekly news magazine focused on the international book publishing business. It's targeted at publishers, booksellers, librarians, literary agents, authors, and the media. And its homepage is, as you can see, really super comprehensive. So again, I'm not logged in, so this is just everything that I can see just as you would without having to actually sign up. So one of the best features of the homepage that I found is this spring announcement. So this main big gray toolbar at the top, just underneath it is like a little sub toolbar. And it basically is giving you a little heads up of all the different titles that are coming out this spring, which is nice. And so I'm just going to click on the children's tab here. And what it has is all their coverage for any titles for kids that are coming out this spring, but they also break it down by publisher alphabetically, which is super helpful, especially if there are specific publishers that you just adore. For me, it's Familius. I would say, you know, they always have great stuff that comes out, and I see it come through HQ quite frequently. So it was really interesting for me to be able to click on this tab and just go straight to it and see all of the different titles that they have coming out this spring for different series, ongoing series that they already have, as well as completely new independent titles. So that's a really nice feature. I'm just going back to the main page here for a moment. And the other, oh, pardon me, one more. And from there, I'm just going to go to the main toolbar here into bestsellers. And again, just a wealth of information here. And the way that they've broken it down, I think, is really, really smart. And then it's not just your bestsellers, your top 10 fiction bestsellers, which is, I think, what we commonly see. Not only have they broken it down into different genres, but also different formats, which is really unusual, but I think extremely helpful. So they have front list fiction, for example, for adults, but in hardcover. They also have it in trade paperback. They have hardcover front list nonfiction bestsellers, and it goes on and on and on. Children's front list fiction, picture books, a whole bunch of breakdown in different nonfiction areas, romance, mystery. It's endless. Religious fiction, religious nonfiction, and there's even more. So that alone right there in the bestsellers tab has a tremendous amount to offer just in itself. And again, just if you don't look at anything else, I think that would be something that would just narrow down some of the best selling books that are currently out there, broken down by a whole bunch of different criteria. So from there, I would say the sidebars are definitely worth paying attention to on this page. And they're on pretty much every page, I believe. So this one here where it says more from Publishers Weekly from PW. So there's, this one has been here for a couple of weeks, but it's really interesting. Some writers to watch for this spring that have some books coming out and all kinds of different lists. And again, like PW picks books of the week. So the other really nice little sidebar that they have is this most popular sidebar. And it has a bunch of different book lists, reviews, articles, like the 10 best Haruki Murakami books, the 10 best Emily Dickinson poems, best books of 2019. So again, it's just really comprehensive, but really quick and easy access points to certain subject matter. From there, if I go right back up to the top, is a little drop-down menu, which is their quick links menu. And this is also really helpful as well, because again, there's just additional access to different titles that are going to be coming out in the very near future. So there's one on adult announcements, children's announcements, etc., best books of 2019. So just another access point of a tremendous amount of information. And lastly, about Publishers Weekly is this. And this is just above the main toolbar, and it says self-publishing book life. Now this is going to transfer us to another page again. And, or did it? Did you take me there? There we go. Okay. And since self-publishing is, the material is just becoming more and more and more popular, where we used to only see a few trickle in here and there, which was primarily process only, for example, we're seeing more and more and more of it all the time. So this, I think, would be an extraordinarily valuable site, just because you can see what the publishers of the self-publishing houses are producing, what Publishers Weekly is talking about, what they've reviewed, because there can be a lot of, without being mean, there can be some, I don't know how to say it. There's a lot of garbage out there. I'm sorry. Not all self-published material is really great. But there is some material out there that is extraordinary. And what they've done here is they've put a tremendous amount of focus on what those titles are. The titles, the self-published titles that are being talked about and reviewed. So again, definitely worth a click to just explore that a little bit if that's something that you were interested in checking out.
And I'll just pipe in for a second about self-published books.
Yes.
Laura had a good point about the quality, but from what I can see from other people I know who work in collections and large library systems, what they've said they found most helpful about self-published books is looking for things like local history, especially local true crime,
Yes.
if there's interest in that. And then strangely, and maybe not so strangely to all of us who work in libraries, but books about conspiracy theories and like aliens and Sasquatch, very
Yes.
popular.
Yes, or a lot of how-to DIY material as well. That
Yes.
seems to come through in great abundance, which is great. You know, there's always going to be people that I might look at it and think, who in heaven's name? But there's always going to be somebody that is going to be interested in material that I'm not interested in, and conversely in the opposite direction. So, you know, forgive my poo-pooing on some self-published. It has improved so exponentially over the last 10 years that I've been working at YRL that that I guess it's not surprising to see that there's been a whole website dedicated to material that people are talking about that is self-published, which is promising. So,
For sure. We did have a question come in from
yes.
Sue at Kalmar. She says, "Hi, Laura. I'm interested in finding out what books will be published later in the year. Are there sites that offer this? Most I find are either after the publication or only a few months in advance." Did you come across anything in your research?
Oh, that's an excellent question. No. I'm afraid I did not, but you know what? Like, keeping in mind that I have not, I'm sure that there's no possible way that I've explored every corner of each of these websites to their fullest extent. So that being said, some of that information could be available. I suppose if you know, if you're, you know, in a time crunch or you just don't want to go through, you know, the commitment that it would take to explore the sites to that degree, you could always, I suppose, just Google that, you know, new nonfiction titles released, you know, in October 2020. Sometimes I'll do that even for compiling book lists to add to CCD, for example, because sometimes it's just not easy to find in one place. So, you know, that's when you just have to use your search engine skills and see what you can find in that respect. So I'm sorry, Sue, I don't have a better answer than that.
I think part of it, what is difficult about that sort of thing too, is we are constrained by the publication schedule of advanced reading copies that get out to reviewers to review those. So depending on how quickly the publishers get those out to them, it might might not be that far in advance of the book coming out, right? So.
Oh, for sure. And it, like, certainly with ULS, and again, I'm going to go through ULS quite thoroughly, but with ULS, if you look at the hot list selection lists that are available, for example, it actually lists quite often not just the year, obviously, that pre-publication those titles are going to come out, but the month. So, and in some cases, hot list is the exception, but in some cases I won't add titles that are scheduled to come out in October and November, for example, right now to a selection list, because if you order it, it's not going to come out in time for it to not end up in one of my pending claims reports. So you know, I probably wouldn't post some of those non-hot list bestseller titles in a selection list, for example, on CCD, until it's maybe only 2 months away from release. So just something to keep in mind that way. Just ULS itself will actually have the month and year of publication, at least when it's supposed to allegedly come out. That can change.
We also had that question answered by an audience member. So Wendy at Westlock says, sometimes the publisher's webinars at Booklist will highlight what is coming out in the next 12 months. This is frequently done with when they are talking about another one of that author's titles. So there's a good resource. And then Sue also said that she has found some success at using Goodreads.
Oh, yes.
Where things are highlighted because the author has done a good job of pre-marketing their book and it has some hype on Goodreads. So
for sure. Yeah, Goodreads is definitely a valuable tool, no doubt.
If you keep such good answers, we're going to have to ask you to do a webinar.
Thank you for attending, Wendy. Okay, so next is my favorite, my without a doubt, hands down favorite of all of them. One in part, full transparency, I really am a big fan of a lot of Canadian work. I'm a published author myself, And so I'm all about rah-rah, sis boom bah, Canadian publishers and Canadian authors and just Canadian work. So I definitely would recommend 49th Shelf. Again, it's just a tremendous amount of information here. It is free. You, again, do not have to sign up to access all of the information, but there is a benefit to, there's actually technically two benefits. One is that, again, you can create book lists. So if you're going through the site and you find titles that you want to look at later or save for whatever other purpose, you can create a book list. So that's a big advantage. The other advantage is that they have giveaways. So if you remember, they have titles. I actually won one this week, as a matter of fact. So I always enter all the giveaways, and I've actually won 2 books from this site so far that they've just sent out for free, and all they expect in return is an honest review of that book. So kind of fun. But I'm going to show you, it's a beautiful site. It's quite clean, really easy to explore. And what I'm going to just kind of focus on right now is not only the reviews that they offer, which are for the most part compiled by 49th Shelf staff, but also by publishers, by library folk like us, but also just by regular people. So sometimes you'll see a listing of books that I'm going to show you shortly that is just put together just by some average everyday individual that is a user of the site, and they've compiled a list. It's not nearly as comprehensive in that sense as like Goodreads, for example, but it's just nice because it's not geared to just one sector of the population. It's not just for libraries, it's not just for readers, it's not just for publishers, it's kind of for all of us. But again, its focus is 100% Canadian. So from there on the main page, it just has these 4 simple little tabs at the top, which is really nice. And of course, a search feature if you're looking for something specific. So from there, I'm just going to scroll down a little bit here. And there's everything from, again, articles and reviews. And they also have some other titles here that are part of this new picture books section. They have a blog, of course, and they're also very present on social media. But this is one of the features that I really like on their site. So what they offer is their popular list section. So you can actually see the covers of the books, but they also break it down. In this particular case, it's different Canadian awards shortlists. So this one's for the Arthur Ellis Award. Further down, the Leacock Medal. And then it also has, so the full list you can click by clicking on their See Full List. And then there's picture books for grown-ups, which I'm going to look at later because that's really caught my attention. The Great Canadian Spring 2020 Staycation, and this actually changes pretty frequently. This is drastically different than it was even a few days ago. So they change it quite regularly, which is nice, keeps it fresh. And again, at the bottom, really simple access points where you can just look for anything that you need to find in one spot. So I'm just going to go back up to the top of the page. Pardon my quick scrolling. And I'm just going to browse by category. Now, this might just blow your mind because it is so expansive and extensive. Browse by category, they're not kidding. So you can see each one of these little hyperlinks just in the antiques and collectibles section. And this is all Canadian works. So you can click on any of these things. So like I'm a big biography, autobiography fan, for example. So I want to learn a little bit more about their criminals and outlaws titles. So I just clicked on that link and it takes me to different lists that have been put together by various people. Again, it could be somebody from 49th Shelf. So this one, for example, are books that have been added into this criminals and outlaws list that are recommended titles. The nice feature about this as well is people have, again, similar to Booklist and something that like an Edmonton Public Library website gives you the opportunity to do, which is adding your own tags. So similar to subject headings, but maybe, you know, in not Library of Congress language. So, you know, criminals and outlaws, post-Confederation, essays, Canadian, dysfunctional families, that kind of thing, personal memoirs. So really, really comprehensive listing there. I'm just going to go back here for a second. And again, like it just goes on and on and on. That question that I often have that comes up, comics and graphic novels, what would you recommend? There is just an endless amount of choices here just in each hyperlink. So adaptations, contemporary women, for example. So you can check any of those kind of subgenres within that genre as to what they're recommending within the Canadian realm and you know, what people are talking about again. So fantastic area of information, without a doubt. From there, I'm going to go to the new books tab. And from here, I use this quite a bit when I'm compiling lists for the Ccd tool for selection lists. Because again, they're all Canadian. It's all right here. It's super easy to access. It's very visually pleasing because all the book covers are all right there at my fingertips. So this, they break it down by week. Or again, lists that have been maybe created by theme, for example. So this is the new children's titles for the week of April 27th. So new children's books. And again, you can just click on the link above and it will take you to the comprehensive list. And from here, what it has is this week's recommended reading lists. So it'll have the cover of a book, and if you just float over top of it, somebody has compiled the 2020 Arthur Ellis Awards shortlists. And you can actually see in the bottom right-hand corner that there's 14 titles included in this list. The next one is, again, the Leacock Medal long list. The next one is picture books for grown-ups, so similar to what we had seen before. But if you click on them, I'm just going to go to the picture books for grown-ups because I really want to see this one. And it just, again, it gives you a little summary, some tags that just help you give you a really quick and dirty idea as to what each of these titles is about. And 14 different titles within that theme. So I'm just going to go back to that page again. So again, these are new books, and it just goes on and on and on. So they break it down per week. So this is the new nonfiction for the week of April 20th, and it's focused on gardening. Again, more themed book lists, and it just goes on and on from there. So I could scroll forever on this particular page. It's really fun to go through. Sometimes the themes that they've chosen are really fun. And also at the top is a book lists tab. I'm just going to go up to that. And if you're kind of curious to see what everybody else is raving about, this is a good place to look. So this is recommended reading. Again, they're lists that are put together by just about anybody. So there's one here by Kylie Turner. I'm not sure who Kylie Turner is. Probably a very nice person. Really felt that it was kind of fun to put this particular list together. And the theme is the ties that bind and sometimes bond. So they've added 6 books to this particular list that'll break down, again, all that information that you need to go through them, you know, quite extensively. And you can either do that now, or the last thing I want to talk about this site is, excuse me, is again, if you wanted to sign up to the site, and it is super duper easy because if you have a Facebook account, you can sign in just using your Facebook login. So you don't actually have to really create an account because it's automatically populated by that access. But what you can do is create a list or lists. So I could always add this particular title or this list to my lists. And it explains in the simplest terms how to do that right here on the right-hand side of the page. So it basically create a new list and it tells you how. So add as many books as you wish using the built-in search and the list edit page. And it gives you an alternative way to do it as well. And then that way, if you want to look at some of these things at a later date again, then you can do that. And you can make multiple lists. So definitely a benefit to actually sign up for this site if you like. And again, there's giveaways. Giveaways are good. All right, so that's it for 49th Shelf. So now we found the stuff. How do we get the stuff? So next I'm going to look at our CCD tool, which us in acquisitions at YRL, that being Scott and myself, we love CCD. It makes our life very easy. And it's been rebuilt in the last year, so it's very similar to the previous CCD tool, but there are some slicker features. So I'm just going to quickly go through because I'm honestly not sure what time it is. 2:20. Okay, I'm running out of time. Okay, so this is how you use CCD. Now, I think you have to get approval to get a login. So if you were to contact us at YRL, if you don't have that already, which I would assume that you do, but if you don't, or you have questions, you've forgotten a password or whatever the case is, don't hesitate to contact us. We'll help you sort that out. But from there, what you want to do, and my view is going to look a little different than yours. Obviously, I have access, I can see everybody's funds. You're obviously just going to see yours. So you're going to see if you have an allotment fund set up, an additional allotment, and a bill direct option, then all of those are going to be available to you. And I'm going to, just because I have done this with Westlock already, I'm just going to continue using Westlock's allotment, even though, extremely important to remember, one, you can't break this site. You can't do anything wrong. Two, this is not connected to Polaris, nor is it connected to the vendor. So you can place an order here and put a bunch of things in, you know, a virtual cart, and the only place that it is going to go when you click submit is to acquisitions, which is Scott and I. And from there, we have to import those MARC files from that order into Polaris. So even though I might be adding a couple of things here from Westlock's allotment, I'm technically not. It just looks that way. So it's just important for you to know that this is not going to affect your funds in any way. That will only happen once it's actually been processed through Polaris and actually submitted to the vendor, and then it's invoiced. And at that point, it will actually come out of your accounts. Okay, so from there, I'm going to go to, I've already selected my fund allocation, and now I'm going to go to selection lists. And there is always the monthly lists for Super Forthcoming that are put up every 2 months. The hot list lists and second choice are always uploaded, as well as CVS Midwest Tape monthly lists and the large print monthly lists. Everything else is just kind of extra fun lists that are based on various themes, and they all have an expiry date. Excuse me. And it's important to note that you'll see some of these have in the discount column have a discount displayed. And the reason for that is because every single title in that particular list is available during this time period at that discount. If there is no discount displayed, like the Alberta Literary Awards list is, that means that I've basically filled a cart in ULS of a variety of different items, and I've imported those records over. So they have a bunch of different discounts. There's not just one discount applied to each of those items. So there's no way that I could just display one discount. So that's why we always make sure that we add in the description of that list that discounts may vary and they will be applied upon invoicing. So it's important to know that. And we can see that there's 17 items in this list. So we're just going to go to the Alberta Literary Awards. And you can use the item search feature. The important thing to remember about that is that they're the only things that you can find ultimately with our item search feature are items that are currently included in selection lists. If that item, that ISBN or title is not currently up on CCD in a selection list, you will not be able to find it or access it in CCD. You would have to go to either ULS or CVS Midwest Tape and create a cart there in order for us to order it. Or conversely, if it was just 1 or 2 titles that you wanted, you could also just contact us directly by emailing orders@yrl.ab.ca and state that, you know, here's the ISBN, the title, and the author. Can you order this for me? You know, maybe list any preferences that you want. I definitely want it in trade paperback. I don't want hardcover, and take it out of my allotment. So there's multiple ways that you can use it, but CCD is limited in that sense. If it's not in a selection list right now, it's not on the site, okay? From there, it's really just a matter of shopping, just like you would on Chapters or Amazon or anything else. So I definitely want to get a book of Crafty Llama. So I'm just going to add a 1 in the quantity field, add. If I change my mind for whatever reason, it's got a nice little handy remove button. The other thing that you might want to watch for is this particular option right here. it's the same title, but obviously it's in two different formats. So there's a hardcover version, which is just underneath the author's name, as well as a paperback version. And that can be the case in many of these lists. So make sure you're paying attention to format. If you didn't want the hardcover, but you wanted the paperback, the price will usually kind of denote that as well, but it's worth paying attention to. And from there, I'm going to choose Johnny Appleseed, a novel. And I'm done with this list, but I want to go back to the main area of selection lists. And I'm going to go to the hot new audiobooks from CBS Midwest Tape. And so I'm going to add a copy of the audiobook A Good Marriage. And again, you can see that it's all listed as sound recording, even though we know that this is just an audiobook listing, but still good to pay attention to the format. You never know. And so now I've done my shopping. I'm satisfied with what I've got here. So I'm just going to view my order. And I can see here that I have 4 items. I can see what my quantities are. So I've made sure that, yeah, I only want one of each of these. You can see what the prices are. And I'm all ready to submit this. Pardon me for a second here. Okay, so I'm going to submit the order. And what it does is it gives me a little breakdown again, but it also gives me 2 extra fields to fill out. And one of these is useful for some libraries because they use their own purchase order numbers. So this is where you would enter your purchase order number. So you might put, I want 6585 as my bill to number. Okay, so you enter that in this field here, bill to. And the note section. We highly value the note section at YRL and acquisitions. And the reason being is because what tends to happen sometimes is you order a title and you don't realize that you already have one in your collection, which of course you can have as many as you like. However, not everybody wants multiple copies of a title. So if it turned out that as we're processing the order in Polaris, that we do a duplicate check and it comes up that you already have this in your collection, then we need to track you down and contact you to find out if you do in fact want that duplicate. And we're happy to do it, but where that whole, those extra steps can be eliminated is in the note section. So you can actually say in this section, if there are any duplicate titles, I do not want them, remove them from the order. Or maybe it's the opposite. Any of the duplicates, please do not cancel because we're replacing old and worn copies or something like that. So it just removes a whole lot of questions on our part. I am going to add a note because I don't want Scott to process tomorrow when he comes into work. So this is a test. Scott, do not process, just cancel. Thanks. All right, so I'm going to submit my order. So again, this is not taking any money. As you can see, I'm going to click submit. It's not taking any money from Westlock's public allotment. I promise you that. That $158 is still going to be there. Nothing will happen to it until it's processed through Polaris, submitted to vendor, and invoiced. So no need to worry there. And that's pretty much CCD. Are there any questions? Because I've talked way too long, and I still have ULS and CVS to go through.
There were some comments and questions. One person wanted to know what books did you publish, Laura?
Oh, a lifetime ago, I was a garden writer. So I used to work for Lone Pine Publishing, and I have written over 30 books on gardening, basically, that are available throughout Canada and the United States because we specialize in regional gardening books. So like I have a rose book in Southern California, for example, that I worked with a local gardening expert there, and we wrote a book about roses. So that's what I used to do.
Great. And just a piece of advice from another person. They said that they like to download the Excel spreadsheet from CCD and use it to market upcoming reads. And then I'm getting some messages from people about some feedback about the structure of CCD, if you want to put that in the survey, that would be great, because then we'll have that captured for future use.
Oh, yes,
And
please.
someone says, we got caught with duplication because of our standing orders last year. Is there a way to avoid this other than not having standing orders? Should I contact Scott about this for next year?
Okay, so definitely can be a problem with standing orders. There's no doubt about it, because of course they're just pulling from the shelf what is available at that time. So like with the paperbacks, for example. So if you're finding that that's problematic, then in cases in the past, that's what some libraries have done, is that they've discontinued getting, again, like the bestsellers, the paperback bestsellers, for example, because they can't control what's coming to them. Whereas with the juvenile paperbacks, you are actually choosing what series you want. So you would know not to order those independent of standing orders themselves. So definitely, if you're finding that that's a problem, you might want to look at standing orders again and decide whether or not it's worth that risk of getting something that you already have in your collection. The person actually to contact would be, you can either just contact orders at yrl.ab.ca regarding any standing order questions, or you can even just contact Josie Wilson individually at jwilson@yrl.ab.ca, because of course she's manager of CRS, and she is our fearless leader in all things standing orders. So that would be my recommendation.
Great. Thanks, Laura. And I had another question about advanced reader copies and ebooks. I will address that at the end of the webinar, because I have some ideas for people if you're looking at getting free advanced reading copies of ebooks for yourself or for interested readers in your library. I can talk a little bit about that after Laura's done CVS Midwest tape, if people want to hang around for that.
Oh, wonderful. And I'm technically now over. Am I still good to go, Lena?
Sure. You know what? Do you want to just fire through ULS? If people need to leave, we will be recording and posting this webinar. I know we've been saying that about all the other ones, but we truly will. They'll get up there.
Okay. All right. Well, thankfully, they're both pretty clear cut. So it may seem a little overwhelming because, you know, there's a lot to know, but really there's really just a few steps to each one, which is handy. ULS, super, if you haven't set up an account already, super easy. You don't have to get approval from anybody. You can just do it on your own. It's just quick. From there, once you're logged in, like I am, the field that you're probably going to be using the most is just this quick search field right here at the top. And it's really user-friendly because not only, sometimes what will happen if you just put in like an author's name, for example, well, of course, everything that they have ever carried for that particular author, especially if they're prolific enough, will come up in every format. And even if it's not something that is available anymore, for some reason, it still displays on their website. So it's nice because you can put in the author's name. You don't even have to put surname, first name. You can just put in, you know, like Jim Brown, and then, you know, the beginning of a specific title you're looking for, and then click search and it'll come up. The alternative, of course, is their advanced search. So, and it is extremely comprehensive in how you can filter down your advanced search. I use it pretty infrequently. I just haven't really found it really necessary. The quick search feature is usually more than enough. Now, again, most of the main primary lists that are available on ULS, I upload to CCD. So again, like Hot List, super forthcoming, they're large print monthly lists. And then I'll also quite often add other selection lists that they have as well. You know, like maybe their French adult titles, Giller Prize, that kind of thing. So it's really super easy for me to just transfer those. So check CCD first for some of those. If not, or again, you just have a preference for ULS, then use ULS. And in order to find and collect the materials that you want to order, it's really just as simple as going to these little tabs at the top, and you want to click on Manage Carts. And that's going to take you to a little area where any carts that you've created so far are just going to be listed down here, which you can see I've got a bunch. And I want to start a new one. So you just go into the Create a New Cart field, and I'm just going to call this Laura's New Cart. add. So it's just going to add it to that list that I just showed you, and I might have to go to page 2 here. And there it is. Okay, so in order to fill that cart, I need to find it here and click on it. And as you can see, I'm in it. Here it is right here. It's Laura's new cart. I can see I have 0 quantity at $0. So it's empty right now. So I'm just going to look up some things, because why not? Come on, ULS, don't let me down now. All right, so things to watch for. These are my most important tips. When selecting items in ULS, pay attention to the format, because again, if it's, let's say we're going to look at something that is, just come out, for example, but it's available in 5 different formats. It's available in Playway, audiobook, trade paperback, hardcover, and large print. So it's going to be available in a whole bunch of different formats. Really important to make sure you're selecting the right one. Now, in this case, sure, I want this literary companion of Stephen King, so I'm just going to add a 1, add to my cart. Now you can see my total has changed. I have 1 quantity at $43.73. Now that is the non-discounted price. And as you can see, this particular item does not have a discount. Okay. It is also, and just underneath the title is special order. So it's something that they do not currently have in stock. So it's not something that I would be able to get really quickly. They're going to have to special order it. So it could be weeks to months before I get it. You never really know. And they can usually not really give us a very good idea. Another thing to watch for, so you can see here as I scroll down a little bit, there's a wide variety of discounts. There's short discounts, which average 20%. When it says full discount, it averages 35%. And again, that can change. So sometimes we'll actually get emails from our vendor, from ULS, stating, you know what, this used to be available at a 35% discount, but since it was ordered, or that iteration is no longer available, only this other one is, and it's at a different price or at a different discount. So it can change. I guess it's not always written in stone 100%, but just something to keep in mind. Now, something I want to something I wanted to point out here. Hopefully that's the right. Oh, here we go. Okay, so this is an excellent example of what to watch out for. So you can see with Black Leopard, Red Wolf, this hardcover version. Now, I can add it to my cart. It's not doing anything to prevent me to do that. But, and I'm assuming that you can, I don't know. Forgive me, but I don't know if you would be able to see this or if this is a permissions for me because I'm in acquisitions. But I can actually see in the status, publisher out of stock, order canceled. So somebody had ordered this. It was canceled. There is another version of this in hardcover that is available, but this one is no longer. So you can see that its list price is at $0.00. That is a red flag. Do not add that to your cart. If it is ever listed at $0.00, even though it looks like it's fully available and maybe nobody else has ordered it, so you have no way of seeing that somebody had ordered it and it was canceled, don't add that to your cart because you're not going to get it. I guarantee you it will be canceled. There are other options, and you can see that, again, there's a trade paperback that's supposed to be coming out in Feb 2020, or was supposed to come out, but it's at a $0.00. So, and no one had ordered it, so I can't tell that it was ordered and canceled, but that really tells me that that is no longer available, even though it is displayed on their site. But there is another option for another trade paperback, so it's just something to watch for. If you were searching for something, like has happened recently, Lena will recognize this. Now you're looking for a title that is super, super popular because it's been around for a really long time. So what's going to happen is there's going to be 5,000 different iterations of this. 301, for example, for The Hobbit. Now I need it pretty fast. So I don't want to deal with any of the special orders, and I don't want to have to go through 10 plus pages of out of print and contact ULS for details, etc. So I'm just going to use the advanced search feature. And I'm just going to go into the title field, and I want exact title. And then what I'm going to do is on the right hand side, it says active titles and stock titles only. I'm going to select those, and then I'm going to click search. And what it's going to do is brilliantly offer me the 3 options that are available. So I can see that right here it's a stocked item. It is in their warehouse as we speak. I don't know how many copies they have. So if you needed 10 for a book club or something, it's probably good to contact us at YRL just to see if we can contact customer service at ULS to see how many they have. But it is a stocked item. It shows, again, full discount, what their price is, and there's only 3 to choose from as opposed to 301. So nice little feature. Once you have completed your cart, just click on it at the top. And what you're going to do is just double check, okay, yeah, I only have 1 item in here. And from this point, you can also create an Excel spreadsheet of this order. If you wanted to keep a hard copy on file for your own records, this is where you would do it, is this create Excel button right here. Or you can print the cart yourself. We also print the cart, so we keep a hard copy of this in our files for a year. But this is where you stop. So this is where you would email orders@yrl.ab.ca, and you are going to let us in acquisitions know. So again, it's either going to be myself or Scott that's going to see your order, this email, and we want to know the following things. We want to know your login and your password for ULS so that we can access your cart. We want to know what the name of the cart is, what fund allocation you want this cart taken from. So do you want your allotment, an additional allotment, or do you want it to be just billed directly? So bill direct. Again, those notes regarding like duplicates, for example, are incredibly handy at this point. If there are any duplicates in this title that are already in my collection, I don't want them, just remove them or cancel them. That's really super handy for us and saves a lot of time. If there's any PO name or number that you prefer to use and you want us to use for in the order, please tell us then. And whether or not you want the cart left alone once we've finished with it, or if you want us to delete it once we've finished with it. That's also really handy for us to know. And that's pretty much it for ULS. That's all you need to do. You're not actually proceeding to checkout. You are just emailing us once you have filled your cart to let us know. And you can have multiple carts as well, to say, hey, I've got a bunch of carts that are ready to be submitted. Here's my login, password, any of those details, and we go from there. Any questions?
No questions so far about this part.
Okay, good. All right. I hope that means that I hit all of the necessary points. Lastly, CVS Midwest Tape. What is unique about this site is that it is all the audiovisual material. So Blu-rays, DVDs, music CDs, but they also offer audiobooks and playaways. So their audiobooks are a little bit different in that they are offered in the specialized library custom cases, so those hard plastic cases. And in many cases, it's also not even a price increase. Sometimes not at all, sometimes very little. So it saves you having to unpackage and repackage at your end once you receive the audiobooks. I suppose a disadvantage, I'm going to say it's a disadvantage, I suppose, even though I think their prices are competitive. None of the items that are available on their site to you, once you've set up an account, there's no discounts. So the price you see is the price you will pay. There are no further discounts that will be applied. So it's something to keep in mind. So in some cases with the audiobooks, for example, people have put a cart of audiobooks together in CVS Midwest Tape, but I've been able to find them on ULS. Same titles, maybe not in the hard cases, but for a pretty heavily discounted price in comparison. So something to keep in mind. It's just as easy to use as ULS is. But again, also keep in mind with CCD, I do upload, and it's just in this section right here in the monthly calendar. I do add these monthly calendar lists for each of these areas, Blu-ray, DVD, music, audiobook, and playaway, onto the CCD tool so that they're super accessible right there. You don't even have to bother with the CVS Midwest Tape site. But if there was something you were looking for specifically, then of course you're welcome to do the same thing as you would do with ULS. You're filling a cart, and then you're not submitting it, but then you're contacting us in acquisitions at orders@yrl.ab.ca with that same information. We need your login, your password, any specific notes about it, like PO, numbers, names, do we delete or save your cart once we're done, etc., that kind of thing. And from there, in order to actually create a cart, so you don't start by actually naming the cart, you're actually going to the material that you're looking for first. So let's say in this case, I'm looking for some CDs to add to my collection. And there's a couple of different ways that you can find it. You can either just do a direct search at the top if there was a specific artist that you're looking for, or these quick links again. So there's hot new releases, their monthly calendar, but there's also these little animated bars in the center. So I'm just going to go to music, and I really want a copy of Kip Moore's Wild World. Actually, full transparency, never heard of the guy. But I want to add this to my cart. So what's going to happen is I'm going to add a 1 to the quantity, as you can see here, underneath all of the information it provides about the item. And what I'm going to do before I do anything else, because I don't want to just add this selection, because if I already have an existing cart there, it's automatically going to add it to that ongoing cart. I want it to start a new cart. Okay, and if obviously it's the first time you're using it, that's the only choice you're going to get. And this is where I give it a name. So I'm going to call it April 28 cart. And what you're going to do before you go any further is you have to click on the account, which is Yellowhead Regional Library, and create. And so now that cart is, you can see it has one product in it for a subtotal of $14.39. And I can just keep adding to that if I wanted to. So I want to go to the audiobook monthly calendar, for example. And I'm looking at, some of the April releases. So I want to add 1 or 2 of these. And so I have added a couple of those. And at the very top of the page again, I want to add selections. And you can see that it's already, because I've just created it, the April 28th cart. If I had multiple carts here, the little drop-down menu will show you. So I also had a test cart from before. So if I wanted to put it in that instead, then that's where I would take advantage of that option. Or again, if I wanted to add this to a new cart, like maybe audiobooks, then I can create a new cart at this point. So I just wanted to add those selections to this April 28th cart that I've created. There is also a Smart Browse section that gives you a really intensive breakdown of how to use their Smart Browse section, but it's also typically available, let's see here. And you can see, so when I click on a title, for example, I can also search, and I'm not sure why it's located here, but nonetheless, it gives me a little bit more of a breakdown or an opportunity to filter if I'm looking for specific things. So I just want to look for the DVDs, just title or items containing, this specific title that I'm looking for, and just items in the last year, for example. So you can really break it down if you want, which is helpful. But in this case, I'm just looking for Onward. It's coming out. I want to get a copy. And so again, I'm just going to add the selection, which is already in my April 28th cart. And now I'm done shopping at CVS Midwest Tape. So if you want to just review what is in it, you can go to View Cart at the top. And it just has it all laid out here. So again, here's my title. I can see what the stock numbers are, the titles, what the price was that I was going to be paying, and you can see that there's no further discounts on them. And from there, again, this is where you stop, and you just email us at orders@yrl.ab.ca. And from there, we are the ones, Scott and I will download those vendor brief mark records, and we'll upload those into Polaris, and then submit it directly to CVS Midwest Tape. So again, all you're doing is you're not submitting this yourself. you're just emailing us and giving that same information. Login, password, any detailed notes, PO numbers, duplicate titles. Do you want us to save the cart or delete the cart? And that's pretty much it. And from there, we take it away. And that is it. I know that the last part was a little quick. I apologize. But of course, anyone is more than welcome to contact me if you're stuck, or you just wanted to explore it a little bit further, had questions that we weren't able to answer here. And I'm easy to find. It's just lpeters@yrl.ab.ca. And you can contact me anytime. So that is my presentation for where to find it and how to get it.
Well, thanks, Laura, for all that great information. Laura's a great resource for this kind of thing because she gets to see everything you guys order. It all comes across her and Scott and Janet's desk, and she's got a good feel for the trends out there. So thank you so much for conducting a webinar for us, and I'm sure everybody here has really appreciated it. I am going to talk a little bit about that question I received via email, but before you leave, please make sure to fill out the survey at the end, and if you have any feedback in general for Yellowhead, by all means include it in that survey. So the question that I guess I can turn on my webcam. I'll give Laura.
Sure. Especially since you can see that we're all in stripes today.
We're all matching today. We're not even in the office. I had a question over email that I think is a really great question. So someone contacted me who's watching this webinar and said, is it worthwhile to contact publishers to ask for advanced reading copies for book clubs? I have talked to publishers about this before I was a librarian just for fun. And I think you might have some success. Now, usually what they would expect in return would be a review on Goodreads. It is super hard for people to get reviews on Goodreads. If you go to writing or reading festivals at all, they're just giving away advanced reading copies, trying to get traction on Goodreads. So if you told them, and I think especially if you were to contact a small Canadian press or a small Albertan press and said, you know, we've got a book club of 5 people. I promise you every single one of us will leave a Goodreads review. you would get some takers. Now, the thing is, they're going to send you an ebook copy to read, maybe on your phone, but quite possibly I have a Kindle, so they've sent it to my Kindle directly. The other resource that's really great for this, if you wanted to investigate something like this, is a resource I've mentioned at the PLC before, which is netgalley.com. So you can sign up as library staff there to receive advanced reading copies as ebooks. Now, the thing is, they you kind of put what genres you want and you apply to receive an advanced reading copy, and the publisher decides to give it to you or not. So it might be tricky to get your whole book club a copy through that. But anybody can sign up for this, especially if you're an avid reader who leaves reviews. Now, the other thing is you kind of build up good karma with them if you've read a bunch of books and leave the reviews. If you read books and don't finish them, or read books and don't leave reviews, they stop giving you free books. So make sure to finish the books you read, or even if you don't, leave a review as to why, so that they can get some publicity for their books. So that website is netgalley.com. And if you're really, really curious about Canadian new releases, the best website to check out for that is lonestars.ca. And they have a partnership with NetGalley. So if you see things you like on Lone Stars, you can request those books often through NetGalley. And those are Canadian titles. So I hope that gives you some ideas. I know it's tricky to get multiple copies of books for book clubs in this time, but I think that's a really fair question, and publishers might be really excited to be contacted if they know that 5 people are going to review their book on Goodreads. So I hope that helps. And let's just see any questions. Okay, good. Okay, heavy users on NetGalley. So lots of love for NetGalley. So highly recommend it. I haven't used my account for a while, but it was certainly fun when I had it. So thanks everyone for attending today. As we said, please fill out the survey at the end. And if you have any questions about how any of these things work, or especially the ordering side of it, I know Laura is happy to answer that. And we have a great team in acquisitions who are experts at this. So we're lucky that she was able to help us today. With that, I wish you all well. Have a great week. Any parting words, Laura?
No, thanks for coming. I'm glad I was able to share this with you. I learned a lot of things myself, actually, about these sites that I know I will use on a regular basis when I return to the office, hopefully sooner than later.
All right. Okay, well, I'm going to shut her down now, and everybody have a great day.